Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dojo Live. Today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. I am Tulio Siragusa, broadcasting from sunny Southern California. I'm joined today by Carlos Ponce, my co-producer and co-host, who is in Cuernavaca, Mexico. Hi, Carlos. Welcome back.
Pleasure to be here as ever, Tulio.
And our guest today is Srisha Ramdas, who is the ex-founder and CEO of Stridedeck that got acquired by Medallia. He's now the GM and SVP. Welcome, Srisha, to the show. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Tulio, Carlos, for this opportunity and looking forward to a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. So we're talking about customer success today, which is a big topic of conversation amongst many companies. If it isn't the topic of conversation at your company, you're in trouble. So definitely want to make it a topic of conversation. So what we're going to learn today is how to move from narrow scope to the C scope in terms of the support for customer success. But before we do that, before we introduce the topic and go right into it, let's get to know Srisha a little bit. Srisha, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, thank you, Tulio. So my background, I've been a startup guy for some time. I was the founder of Leadformix that got acquired by Calidus Cloud, today SAP, and then Strikedeck, which is a customer success platform that got acquired by Medallia in 2019. And Medallia, as we know, it's a large public company focused on customer experience, one of the best customer experience platform out there. And so it's been an exciting journey. And also, I'm extremely passionate about customer success, and we're going to talk about that. It's really the growth engine that every company needs.
Okay, so you've had 2 exits. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're still at it. So let's see what we can learn from you. Tell us a little bit about what gave birth to the idea of Stridedeck, first of all, and then how you came about getting acquired by Medallia and what you guys are doing today.
Yeah. Tulio, see, I've been part of a lot of board meetings, as you can imagine. And in every board meeting, I found the conversation around what new logos did you acquire last quarter, right? Which new customers came in. And the conversation was never around, how much did you grow your existing customer base? And that's where I felt like we are missing out on a big thing here. People are not realizing that there's a gold mine in their backyard, right? And so that's what led me to this conclusion that it's time to change that, and a platform that can spur the growth engine, that can get people to converge around the customer. The notion of that customer needs to grow, and you need to engage with the customer to grow. That's how Strikedeck came about.
Wonderful. Yes, it is true. A lot of companies are very focused on the acquisition aspects, and the really good companies focus on both. Coming from the big 4 world, customer success, account management, growing existing relationship was everything that we did. That's our big focus. So let's go right into the topic today and see what we can learn, why there's this disparity, right? And it's interesting, sometimes it does come from the board. What needs to change in order to get smarter about customer success, and why is that important? So let's introduce the topic. Carlos, please kick it off and let's see what we can learn.
Absolutely, Tulio. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kim, for joining us to
Hi, Kim.
today. Hey.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be here. It's been a nuts day, but I'm happy to be on the show.
Cool. Thanks for joining us, Kim. So, Tulio, Kim, today we're going to be speaking about, as you mentioned, Tulio, customer success. The topic is evolving from narrow scope to C scope. And we're going to have a discussion with our guest about elevating it to a C-level function and how it can provide strategic insight and guidance that is generally not available from any other source. So thank you, Srisha, for being with us today. First question that I have for you is this. Why did you choose this particular topic for today's conversation, or why did you feel it was relevant for today's day and age? Let's start with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about this topic. Carlos, because I feel that not enough attention is given on customer success, and it reflects that usually the customer success leader do not have a seat at the table. They are not part of the C-suite, and that needs to change. And the reason I feel that way is the growth engine that customer success brings to the table is not well understood, and we need to go out and talk more about it. If you look at all the recent public companies, they all have a growth rate of beyond 100%, and that's coming from their existing customer base. It's a land and expand phenomena that they are able to leverage so well. You look at Atlassian as an example. They did not have a true sales function for a long time. It all happened through word of mouth and accounts growing. Once they buy an Atlassian product, they either buy more Atlassian product or more licenses, and they keep growing.
Carlos, you're on mute.
I'll go. My question is, let's back up.
There's no other way. There's no other way that I could have done it.
Let him run. Go ahead, Kim.
Customer success. To me, when I hear those two words together, there's a lot of ideas of what this means. And I think there's probably some variation out in the world. Let's get to the very basics. What is customer success? What is that function within any company?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kim. And the way I would answer that is, if you take all the two-word phrases, with the first word starting with customer. So you have customer support, customer training, customer engagement, customer experience, and so on. You will find that customer success is actually the most dynamic word there, because success in some ways is a proactive word. It's all about being proactive and being successful in your outcomes, right? And so the way I would define customer success, it's about leveraging your existing customer success for the growth purpose. And the growth could happen protecting your existing customer base, which is renewals, right? Focusing on customer expansion. And last but not least, customer advocacy, where you can turn your existing customer usage, your customer adoption into influencing sales. And so growth is happening on the three fronts there. And that's how I view customer success.
Now, Srisha, obviously this is different for every company, right? If you're a B2C company with a high level of monthly transactions, your ability to manage and lead those customers through a journey is different than if you are a hardware company that has maybe a transaction once or twice a year, or sometimes once every couple of years, versus a subscription software company where you might have ongoing transactions and ongoing interactions with the vendor you're working with. So how do you go about, and that's probably part of the reason I would think why some organizations don't give enough attention to this, because maybe the C-suite came from an environment where it didn't require that kind of attention on a regular basis. But obviously that's a mistake. So how can organization figure out what is the appropriate customer success model for them based on their business model, essentially? What have you guys found through your company and through your dealings with various industries are some of the best practices that work and some that don't?
Yeah, Tulio, that's a great question. Customer success started essentially with SaaS vertical. And that happened because the SaaS companies, software companies, realized that because the customer contracts are, because the customers are in the cloud and there's a specified time period with the contracts, they need to focus on renewals, right? And when these companies saw high churn, they realized that we have to give attention to the existing customers in terms of training them, in terms of making sure that they're using the product well, right? So B2B SaaS is how customer success came about, but now it's spreading to other verticals, other than technology verticals, to different domains. It's even now spreading to some of the hardware companies. For example, Bloom Energy is is a customer of ours, and they are in clean tech space, and they have this hardware box that's leveraged for energy purpose, and they have been using a customer success platform, or they have adopted customer success phenomena to engage with their customers better, to get them to see the value that they are deriving from using Bloom Energy products, and then being true advocates of because clean tech, as we know, it's a newer category, it's a newer trend, and there needs to be a lot of education with that, right? So that is where I'm seeing even the hardware companies adopting that. Now we should also talk about B2C. Now B2C, it's happening at a different scale, right? In B2B, the notion is about an account and an account growth. In B2C, the focus is on the end user, on the consumer. And that's where the subscription-based B2C companies, there is also a customer success play there, right? Because now you're not caring about the organization, the company, you're caring about the end consumer, and consumer subscribing and buying more products. And so that's also a place where, but there you have to think about in scale, and that can only happen when automation is there. Just
Right.
one account management will not help there.
Right. Plus, you have the challenges of conversions, right? You often start with a freeware, and then obviously there's the challenge of conversion, which separates the pros from the not so pros in terms of getting adoption and getting actually revenue coming in. So let's talk a little bit about the topic itself, from narrow scope to the C-suite. Most organizations sort of look at this, okay, we got the deals coming in, each department can handle it, make sure we don't lose them, make sure that they're happy. But there's no real involvement at the leadership level at the table, as you mentioned earlier. There's no conversations taking place at the board level about what we're learning from the customer interaction, what opportunities are we gaining for R&D, what feedback we're gaining for in terms of competitive threats. That's not happening to some organizations. Why is that? Why is that some organizations just don't see the value at that level? And what happens when they do? What's been your experience?
Yeah. Tulio, again, a great question, because what's happening is that a lot of the organizations are reacting to the situation. And usually they are reacting to churn. They see high churn numbers and they say, we got to do something about it. And they would have heard that customer success is a magic potion that can be brought to the table. And so they rush to do customer success. And the customer success is used as a wedge between the sales and support in those organizations. And that's where I feel that the full potential is never realized, right? And that needs to change. And in order for the C-scope to happen, the customer success leaders out there also need to elevate their position. They cannot be that bridge between the sales and support. They cannot be taking the support tickets, analyzing it, and providing that information to the sales. And the way they can elevate themselves is by owning every data, every touch point, every interaction that happens with customers, with any department. So they need to be the custodians of the master customer data, or every customer engagement that's happening. That is what is going to get the CEO's attention. That's what's going to get the board attention. They need to talk about their function as a growth engine and not as a support function, right? That when it changes, the board will become interested, because now you're talking about the overall revenue perspective. So one of my prediction that I mentioned recently in a conference was that you're going to see more sales motion associated with customer success. Right, that's going to transform customer success into a more impactful function.
So now you're talking about a whole lot of interactions and a whole lot of data, which, from what I understand, is enter Strikedeck.
Right.
Let's automate some of this. Let's make sense of all of this. So, what kinds of ways are you helping this customer success make sense of all of these interactions that they're trying to wrangle? To me, it feels like, like trying to chase a cat. Like, like, what do I do with this? So how do you help us make sense of this?
Yeah. Again, Kim, when it comes to data, that's again I'm super passionate about it. So let me start with customer feedback there. The industry has been doing customer feedback for a long time, and that's what I call as explicit feedback. You reach out to the customer, and the customer says, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, and that data comes to you, right? But there's so much data lying inside an organization that's not being used. So how the customer is using the product, right? Are the customers filing the support tickets? Are the data in the CRM, which tells you how long is the contract? Who is the stakeholder? Is the stakeholder still there, right? And that and all the customer interactions that are happening either on the Zoom or in person, the QBR discussions, all of that data is not being captured well and not being used well, and that I call as implicit feedback, right? Which is the from that data, Strikedeck platform, customer success platform, takes that data and we create a customer health score. And that customer health score will tell you whether the customer is in red or is in green. And now you have implicit data and explicit data both coming together. That'll give you a true picture of what's going on the customer. The customer is saying that they are doing well in a feedback form, but the adoption data is showing that they are not using well. And that could be an opportunity to train them better, right? That's then automation or action that can be teed up from that data that's coming in, right? Or the customer is saying they are red, they're not feeling well, but they are using the product so much. What's happening? And you dig deeper. And this actually happened with one of our customer, where they looked at the data and they figured out that the usage is much in the platform because they have been exporting the data out of the platform. And most probably they were trying out a competitor's product, right? That's where the thing was high, but then the data showed that this account is in a mess and you need to act right now. So that's where a customer success platform can act on the score. And it's not just one dimensional score, that customer health score we provide. We can figure out the CSM workload score, right? Which CSM is overloaded. And because they are overloaded, they may not give proper attention to a customer. We can figure out the customer support score, where somebody is filing a lot of tickets, but is in a good spirit. The filing a lot of tickets is a good sign because they are testing every aspect of the platform. But somebody who's maybe filing the tickets but expressing frustration in the tickets, then it may result in customer being dissatisfied. Does that provide some context there, Kim?
It certainly does. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have a question. And regarding customer success in the world of SaaS, software as a service, I can more easily, let's call it like that, more easily relate to what a customer success function can entail and how and it can influence retention and growth and things like this. We're talking about just software products that people buy online. But what happens to what sort of insights or information would you say that would be valuable or required to improve or to enhance the growth phase of a company that is dealing, let's say, with consumers, but who are not necessarily buying software products? Let me give you an example. There might be, a company that is selling a real estate fintech type of solution for the public, companies that could be probably allowing people to access cash out of their home equity, for example. And you're having a bunch of people just on an inbound campaign and, just getting the word out and just having interactions with the consumer who's not necessarily a software as a service customer. So we're talking about a different type of transaction or situation. What would you say is relevant for these particular scenarios to make it a successful endeavor?
Yeah, that's again, Carlos, I'll give a couple of examples that will answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
One is a personal experience that I want to share. So I was a customer for over 12 years with a bank, with a popular bank, and then there was another bank that opened a new branch close to my home, and the new bank sent me a mailer saying that we just opened this branch. We would love you to visit the branch and see how the branch how branch functions. And so I visited the branch. I saw there was an ATM right there, so it was convenient. I don't have to drive much. And so I decided to give the other bank a try. So I withdrew from the previous bank and moved some money into the new bank. And over the time, the branch extended red carpet, and it was convenient. So I started moving more money from the old bank to the new bank. And then one fine day, I decided to move all the money. And towards the end, I got a call from the old bank saying, "Do you want free advisory services? You can talk to us about how to increase your investment, how to go about your portfolio in a better way." Too late, right? The data was all there. The data was there that I was slowly moving money out of one bank to another bank. And so this is where the data can be leveraged and more fruitful customer engagement can be structured. If the old bank had come back to me months earlier saying, "We would like to offer free advisory services, and this is how you can leverage the investment that you already have," I would have stayed with the old bank. I was a happy customer till then. And then the convenience factor overtook. Another example, B2C example I would like to give is these days you hear a lot about box solution, right? So you have a pet, you have a dog, and there are companies out there that will ship you all the stuff that the pet needs for a month in a box, and you subscribe to it, right? Similarly, shaving needs, right? There's a company that offers everything that you need as a subscription service. I've heard that even COVID may have changed or delayed it a little bit, but there are airline companies that are now going to sell that also as a subscription. So everything as a subscription model is here to stay. And so I may be subscribing to a product, but how do you ensure that I'm constantly enjoying the service, right? If there is a competitor that comes my way and offers me free thing for next 3 months, can I be swayed, right? What can ensure the brand loyalty? And those kind of data is valuable, and it's all there in the internal system. It needs to be brought to the surface, right? I always say this, that a customer who's using your product well, there's no guarantee that customer will not churn. If the customer gets excited by something else, they will leave. They may be using the product, but if they get excited by something else, they will leave. And that's where customer success comes into the picture.
I see. Thank you, Srisha.
Srisha, it's pretty clear that if you treat everything as a transaction, as a business, your customers are going to treat you as a transaction too. You just described perfectly what happens when you're just another transaction and all you're managing is growth in transactions. And there's actually people behind there who might leave because there's no affiliation, no loyalty, no relationship that's been built beyond the transaction. So my question is, clearly it's important to have a platform to systematically create a customer success methodology, and it's appropriate across multiple businesses and verticals. But what is the appropriate size of a company where they should start thinking about doing this, right? Is there a point where the number of people that would normally do this almost as a white glove kind of service is not enough? Is there a formula that says, hey, when you get to the size, you really ought to be thinking about putting this in place, and it's got to be an initiative sponsored by the C-suite, because if it's not going to properly get the attention it deserves, and then you're not going to extract the value we need to get out of it.
You're right. So again, this is one of my favorite questions to you, because I'll tell you why. I have a slightly different perspective on this one. It's never too early to start customer success. It's never too late to do customer success. In fact, I'm an advisor and investor to a number of startups in the Valley. And my advice to all of them is that hire a customer success person before you hire sales. Why? Because the customer success in early stage company will ensure that feedback is going back to the engineering team to build better products, right? There may not, the startup may still not have the renewal process or really renewal motion, but you still hire customer success, not to do renewal and expansion, but you hire customer success to make sure that the feedback is coming from the early design partners who are there, right? And so typically how many accounts a customer success manager should own, there are different views and perspectives on that. The popular number there is that a CSM should own 2 million book of business. I don't subscribe to that thought. That's a good number, but it also depends on what's your price, right? How much are you charging? What size of customers you're dealing with, right? Is the customer needy, right? Because no two customers are same, right? You may have customers who are not paying much but are very demanding, and at that time you even need to question whether you should retain that customer or let the customer go. So and those are the kind of issues that larger companies face, right? So so the bigger companies, I've seen that they have account management also reporting to customer success. They have support reporting to customer success, and they could be part of the larger sales organization led by a chief revenue officer, or they could be on their own reporting to chief operating officer as more custodians of trusted relationship rather than having revenue quotas.
Yeah, interesting. Go ahead, Kim. I think.
Yeah, I love it. Going back to your point of relationship and not just being an exchange or a transaction. Talking about this, I think with the data, we have perhaps some insight into what is happening, why it might be happening. But what advice would you have for the now what? What are the creative solutions you're seeing out there that customer success is doing as a way to respond to what they're seeing? How do you get the other people on the board to listen? What are the ideas? What are the solutions? Of course, I understand this to be unique, depending, it varies a lot. But I think, to me, that's the harder piece of this puzzle of like, I see this. What do I do now?
Absolutely. So we, in last 5 years, we definitely have moved on from how to what now to do, right? It's the action automation piece, Kim. And again, this is the strength of Strikedeck platform. Our automation engine is really strong and comes handy. That once data tells you that customer is not in a happy state, what can you do? What can you act? Or what can you tee up? And I'll give you a few examples. So we all know that there's a date of renewal, right? And so if you know the date of renewal, you can create a whole process leading up to the renewal, so that on the renewal date, you're not worried whether it'll go through or not, which is, you can perhaps 6 months before the renewal, you can run a report on the usage, and that can be sent automatically to the CSM, and the CSM can analyze the usage and decide that the usage is on the lower side. Let me do an adoption training program for the customers so that they can be in a better state. 3 months after, you can again automate the usage report back to the CSM, and if the usage has not gone up, then an automated email can be triggered from the CSM to the customer saying, I'm here to help you. Here's my Calendly link. Feel free to schedule a meeting to see whether it's working or not. And if a meeting is not scheduled, then 2 weeks later, you may set up an action, a task for the CSM saying, call the customer now, right? And then 1 month or a couple of months before the renewal, a feedback can be triggered automatically to the customer, asking them how they're feeling about the product. And if the customer responds saying, I'm not in a happy state, you have to meet with the customer again, then with your executive management team. right? Because it has been already should be escalated at that level, right? And then if the customer does not even respond to the survey at that time, that means they do not care. They do not bother about that. That would mean that the CSM may actually need to take their CEO and actually visit that customer, right? So those are all the actions that can be teed up. Similarly, you can have a QBR process automated where you have a quarterly QBR process or a even have a semi-annual executive briefing where the data that comes from that meeting, the action items that comes from the meeting, that can trigger certain workflows that can go out. And so there are a lot of these workflows that can be created based on the data that's being generated by Strikedeck. Even if you face a churn scenario where a customer is leaving, I've seen that over 60% of the company do not even have an exit interview with a customer. There's so much you can learn from the customer. So you can actually do an automation based on that, where as soon as the customer status is updated, the CSM get a notification saying have a churn interview, have an exit interview with the customer.
Right. History should not be repeated.
Right.
At least bad history.
We're up on time, but really appreciate the feedback and conversation. Everything you described, Srishra, is very typical of what good salespeople do. They follow up, they set up triggers for the next step. And, I haven't been in tech 31 years. Those QBRs and all these activities were manually done for so many years. And the really good people did great with that. But sometimes you just get so many accounts, it gets overwhelming for one person or a number of people to keep up with. So it's great that it's been automated. It's encouraging to know it. But at the end of the day, what we're hearing is you've got to have a commitment to this at the C-suite. You've got to be committed to it as a business. I mean, one of the reasons the CRO role was created was to be a hybrid between the chief marketing officer, the COO, and the chief sales officer in one, right? Yeah. To have an outlook for the future and an outlook for the short term and manage it all under one roof, if you will, to have more visibility and have these kinds of programs in place so that everyone's feeding off of each other. It's been great to have you as a guest. We're over time. We'll have to keep up with the progress. Love to have you back sometime, hear more stories. Love the stories, the success stories. Stay with us as we go off the air. Carlos, what do we got coming up next? You're on mute.
I was not on mute. That was on purpose. I didn't want anybody to hear what I was going to say. No, I'm just kidding. Srishra, for the record, I'm known as a mute guy. I always forget that I'm on mute. Always. So bear with me. So Thursday, this is something very interesting. On Thursday, we're going to be speaking with Paul Powers, the CEO of FISNA, and he says that we're about to see something even bigger than the internet, which is called 3D code. So I wonder what that is. I look forward to that. And the topic is going to be: think the internet was revolutionary? Think again. That's what we have with Paul Powers, the CEO of FISNA, right here on DojoLIVE at 12 p.m. Pacific, guys.
This is going to be good. That's like 3 years later after we had Vince Cerf on the show, the father of the internet. So let's see what's next.
Let's see what's next. Exactly. There you have
it. Maybe we can arrange a showdown.
We can have the architect and the new architect head to head.
Probably.
All right, guys. See you back on Thursday. Be safe.
Be safe. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.